Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter.
Hello, folks, and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Of course, I'm Sri, one of the aforementioned CPG guys, often known as the omni-channel guy. And my areas that I love are branding, D2C, omni-channel, P&Ls, P&Ls, connected commerce, retail media, and marketplaces. They also lovingly call me the Bronx Bomber CPG guy. And I'm joined by my co-host, Peter Bond, known as the loyalty guru and expert at digital shelf content, retail success, customer data, insights, CRM, and consumer trust. He's known as the eternally hopeful Dodgers fan that never gives up. And I need to point out before I say hello to him, at the time of this recording, I had to introduce him to the no-hitter, the sixth in the season, and the first thrown by a Yankee in a long time by Mr. Corey Kluber himself. With that, please join me in welcoming the man with the radio voice himself, also known as 007 or Mr. Bond. How are you today, sir?
Mariska Hargitay, Sri. Sorry, I have to do my Mike Myers. I grew up in this neighborhood in Toronto. It's always fun to do that. Sri, it's great. You know, I actually attended a no-hitter, and it was a Yankees no-hitter. I was at old Yankee Stadium when Doc Gooden threw a no-hitter pitching for the Yankees. Not the Mets, the Yankees. So, magical time. I am very excited for you that you got to have that happen last night for the Yankees. So congratulations. I'm really excited about continuing our conversation in this series today with Brandshare. We had a great talk the first time about connected sampling. You know that I'm from that space as well and find a tremendous amount of value in getting samples into the hands of consumers so that trial can occur and also learning and engagement can begin. So very excited about our conversation today.
Thank you so much, Peter. But before I get to our guest, I want to remind our audience that all our content can be found at cpgguys.com. That includes everything from brands, retailers, and lately, even analysts from Royal Bank of Canada, Peter. How about that? And our Women's Leadership series, which was in the fall of 2020, where we featured women leaders from across CPG and retail and service providers. And we were able to donate $8,000 to the Susan G. Komen Fund. Our ongoing Founders series of service providers in Q1 and Q2 first half of 2021. All of it indeed. Our show's content is driven by you, aka audience driven. So please do give us your feedback on who you want to see, what kind of service providers add value to you, and you can do that easily by going to LinkedIn in the search bar, typing CPG Guys, as easy as it is, CPGGUYS. And all you have to do is hit the giant plus button that says follow. And when you do that, you can be part of this growing family that's growing at least 50 every single day. And you can also leave us a rating on ratethispodcast.com/CPG Guys. And we really want to thank you also for engaging in our polls that we take from time to time, which helps us shape everything we do on the show. The modern shopping experience, as you know, is ever evolving. Groceries are delivered to doorsteps, products are discovered on social media, and voice assistants actually make purchasing products so easy. In this dynamic environment, brands are seeking scalable ways to make shopping convenient. As Peter and I take advantage of all of those technologies ourselves. With the shift in consumer shopping behavior, what are marketers supposed to do to sample their products to encourage trial? And if done efficiently, repeat and effectively, as well as for impact. Two words come to mind. Connected sampling. Brands should engage consumers in the comfort of their home where product trial is at absolute highest, especially given what we went through in this country the last 15 months. But conversations are eternal and they're every day, all the time. Digital solutions accelerate conversion by moving consumers through the purchase funnel faster. As a result of this, we launched a 3-part series in partnership with the brand team at Brandshare. Like a launch your brand to the next level kind of impact? We're talking about a disruptive, engaging experience at scale that instantly connects you with your target consumer. Episode 1, which featured back on May 29th, was with the founder Doug Geyer, And now our guest for the second part of the series is the president at Brandshare, who has spent his entire 27-year professional career in marketing services. Please join Peter and me in welcoming to the CPG Guys podcast, Alan Verdun. Alan, welcome. How are you today?
Oh, very well. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on. Big fan of the CPG guys and the industry that we all follow and play in.
Thank you, Alan. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And before we get to the questions, would you take a minute just to give our multitasking audience the quick summary of Brandshare's business, including if they want to find you and Brandshare, how they can do it easily?
Of course. Yeah, we'll start with where to find us. So, of course, our website is brandshare.us. You could also look for Brandshare on LinkedIn, probably the two easiest ways. And, at 10,000 feet, I always sort of describe our business with three different pillars. One, we have been in the e-commerce business in terms of distributing samples for many years. It's a very efficient way to do mass sampling at scale and very measurable. The second is we partner with many incredible retailer partners and help them with their sampling, everything from baby boxes, beauty boxes, subscriptions, health and wellness, college, you name it. And I guess the third pillar of Brandshare is our digital tech stack. How do you make sampling measurable? You were talking about conversational commerce and repeat and dialogue with consumers, adding product to cart. And I guess what it's all about is getting consumers to try new fun products, and being able to help consumers to the path of purchase for trying new things.
Thank you so much, Alan. And folks, all of that information can be found in our podcast liner notes. So if you're ever looking, all you have to do is just refer to the liner notes. So one of the things we like to do on the show, Alan, is we like to get to know our guests and who comes and visits us. So can you share for our audience your journey from Syracuse University to Brandshare in New York, and what white space in the industry tickled y'all pink that attracted you to Brandshare?
Yeah, we're going in the Wayback Machine. When you said 27 years in the industry, I had to sit back and reflect on that a little bit. It's been a journey. But yeah, Syracuse was an incredible experience for me. I was a finance and marketing major. And there was a lot of companies that were recruiting on campus, at that time. I'm sure that still goes on, but one of them at the time was News Corporation, and it was a division specifically called News America Marketing, which you guys I'm sure are probably familiar with now, called Neptune. And I was hired as sort of a sales development program, starting off as an account manager and then, growing into a sales role. But they really treated me, very, very well there and gave me some unique opportunities. So I was able to sort of step out of the sales development process and do sort of an executive training program where I got some exposure to marketing, mergers and acquisitions, human resources, digital, as well as business development and sales. So there was a period of time relatively early in my tenure at News America Marketing where I was able to do a great rotation that gave me a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge about not just CPG, but marketing objectives, what the KPIs are, and ultimately, how to run a business. So across my years at News America, you may know them. They had a lot of in-store properties that were put up at shelf in a very wide-scale group of retailers. Of course, they're probably also known for FSIs, right? Print coupons in the Sunday paper. And in the latter years, also made a few acquisitions of different digital properties like Checkout 51 and others. So I spent a little over 20 years in a variety of different positions at News America, sort of ending up as one of the EVP of sales of New York, Canada. I know that I managed the P&L for Canada, near and dear to your heart. And when that all came to an end for me, I went over to a company called Touchstorm, which is they work with many CPG clients, but slightly different platform. They are a SaaS solution and mostly aimed at helping companies, could be consumer packaged goods companies, drive organic video, mostly through YouTube. So, think of Procter & Gamble in this example, which was one of their big clients. For Procter & Gamble, if they were looking to educate consumers on how to do men's grooming, ultimately to promote their shaving products, we would help make sure that those videos were created properly, that they were searchable, and use all the the Google algorithms to the advantage of Procter. So that was a very fun run for a couple of years over at Touchstorm. And then I made my way over to Brandshare. I was extremely grateful that the firm that owns Brandshare and the founding family welcomed me there. I think your question was, what was the white space? And really the white space was, how do you sample efficiently? How do you sample effectively? And how do you measure it? So we've been on a journey for the last 3 years, mostly focusing on the measurability of it. Not just can you deliver a product into what you hope to be an ideal consumer, but then what happens to it and what is the conversion? What do people think of the product? How can we test and learn and continue to do things better?
Alan, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to speak with you today. I've been in the sampling business for going on a decade now, since my time at dunnhumby when they acquired BuzzAgent. So I've had some experience in this space as well. And what a great training ground you had working at News America, a legendary company. I think they actually required all of their employees to wear coat and ties even while working from home during the pandemic. So
yes,
maybe that's changed.
and still pantyhose as well.
Exactly. Full business attire. No relief for the weary, even during the pandemic. But in any event, so you mentioned previously that Brandshare's primary business is brand sampling. So sampling's been with us for time immemorial. I still remember, pre-pandemic, right? The life before the pandemic. Saturdays at the Costco, going from sampling station to sampling station, right? Trying out products in physical retail, in addition to having samples sent to my home. Now we're in this world where digital engagement seems to be a predominant focus of brand marketers. And so my question to you is this: as the store model is rapidly moving to online discovery, why do physical samples still matter?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this business and sampling has evolved so much, over the years. There are all sorts of exposure for consumers to new products, education about what's out there, what new SKUs, what real new innovation. There's lots of ways to do it, and probably a balance of educating consumers is important. But having consumers actually getting the product into consumers' hands, having them taste it, having them feel it, having them try it, I still believe is critical for a brand. So many of these objectives are right: grow household penetration, get rinse and repeat and trial, drive all of these objectives. It is a very crowded world in the digital space, and within grocery stores, within the shelves, there are so many choices for consumers. So how do you get consumers to first know about a new product, which, the education of that alone is a challenge. And then two, to engage with you. I mean, even pre-COVID, that was a challenge. But now with COVID, the actual shopping of the store is changed, right? People are a little bit more rushed. They're looking at their grocery list a little bit more specifically than being exploratory. And I also think consumers are a bit bored with some of the products they're trying. So we do believe very firmly that if you want to grow your household penetration, if you want to grow trial, there's no better way than to present a sampling opportunity to consumers at home, where they're in a sort of a relaxed environment, to encourage them to try it.
Yeah, all the more now, Alan, that, discovery is largely online. It's a story and a conversation I have with the brands I get to touch daily for the last 5 odd years, that, when it comes to an existing portfolio, it's one story with the in-store model, but almost exclusively innovation these days is discovered online, because she's spending a majority of her time on the smartphone device. And the winners are those that can actually create that sampling moment online. So let's talk about that, Alan. How does Brandshare provide an experience for brands in that scenario when a majority of the action is happening online? How I would word that, Alan, is how do you guys connect physical samples to online discovery and innovation hunts by consumers?
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer that two ways. One is, Brandshare can sampling enable any digital media, right? So many of these brands are running on Facebook, Instagram, obviously, different programmatic and web advertising. We very easily can partner with brands if that's their KPI, to have that experience through a click through of qualifying them for a sample. So one, that's one opportunity. I think a little bit more specifically to your question is we wanted to sort of harness the power of, at-home sampling. So again, just for the audience that may not know, Brandshare does a lot of our sampling through e-commerce. So just in a quick example here, if your target audience was fashion conscious, athletic females, then, maybe you're thinking Athleta, maybe you're thinking Fabletics. So we might send a sample for somebody that's purchased, just in this example, yoga pants. So they purchase a pair of yoga pants, and maybe, again, just using an example, it's Kind Bar that is looking to target that specific audience, and maybe the message is to nourish this potential female before their workout. So they would get a sample size of Kind Bar as a surprise and delight, right to the doorstep of their home, right? It's in in this case, the Lululemon Athleta box. They open it up, and there is a nice surprise and delight opportunity for them, which is a Kind Bar. The Kind Bar most likely would have an overwrap on it and a collateral card. The collateral card will have a QR code, and this is what we spent so much time developing over the last few years. The QR code can take you to a variety of different experiences. It could start off with conversational commerce and have a quick chat and get to know you. It then could lead to an online offer, a coupon. It could lead to add to cart at your favorite retailer, add it to Walmart.com, add it to Amazon. If it's a shopper objective for a brand, they could select a specific retailer or a variety of different retailers. It could lead to a video if there's a unique selling proposition that the brand would like to share, a recipe. So there's all sorts of opportunities to take that physical sample, encourage them to try it, have a fun, light conversation with the consumer, maybe sharing a bit about the product attributes, and then ultimately work on the conversion. So it sort of perfectly couples that physical trial to that digital experience that we know so many people are, spending time on, as you indicated, and are very comfortable with.
Shri, what I heard there is, first and foremost, the sample rides piggyback on an e-commerce transaction that a consumer is expecting. So when they open the box, they're expecting to get something, but they're surprised to get a sample. And that means that there's a high likelihood that they're actually going to use that sample. So that's tremendous. And then you can further digitally engage those consumers. And not only that, but you can select the consumers based on their lifestyle. So that is a really great way of getting the right sample into the right consumer's hand, ensure there's visibility, and then start engaging with them. Wow, that's tremendous. So, all right, Alan, we always talk about this concept of sausage making. Let's talk about how you make the sausage. All right. Tell us about the end-to-end client experience of working with Brandshare. When a brand decides that they want to work with you, what happens next? What is the time to execution from engagement, right, to implement? And, what other challenges are faced by them in terms of sampling around product cost and distribution issues?
Sure. Yeah, great question. When you engage with Brandshare, right, we spend a lot of time and energy, of course, trying to build the right staff, a staff that understands what consumer packaged goods objectives are and their KPIs. So we have a very experienced sales team, a very amazing client success team. So hopefully the brands will be engaging with a great team of knowledgeable experts. But the first thing we try to understand is, obviously, what is their objectives? What is their budget? How are they going about trial? And then to your point, once we understand that, a little bit from a little bit about the profile of who they're trying to attract, and we'll give them a number of different options of how to appropriately select the right cohorts. Once we have sort of understood the size and the weight and all of the details that go into sampling, and we understand who the audience is, we'll then begin to talk about that digital experience, right? What should it be? What are we trying to tell the consumers? Do we want the end game to be to add it to cart, or do we want to try to drive them with some sort of other incentive through our digital experience? So there are a number of different conversations. Ideally the brand may have a brief, and we can, educate ourselves through that brief and be very targeted in terms of how we go about this process. I guess the one thing which, I'm sure you guys understand is, the sampling, especially when it is a real product, there are logistics involved. One, a brand has to have samples. Those could be full-size products, or they could have produced samples for any sort of new product launch or SKU extension. So that is, you have to identify how many samples they have they been purchased, expiration dates. If it's chocolate, we have all sorts of protocols if it could melt, in terms of the shipping. So we're very diligent and careful about those particular elements. And from a lead time standpoint, it just because of the shipping and the different e-com audiences it goes to, it's probably about 6 weeks to about 12 weeks in terms of before a program can go live. But often when we're engaging with the client, the lead times could be anywhere from 3 months. And obviously some clients through their planning process will make commitments 12 months in advance. And it's really part of their, their annual plan and marketing calendar.
Alan, you went the spectrum of yoga pants to chocolates. So,
Right.
One melts when it gets hot, and one actually is used in hot yoga. So I found, because we've gone the spectrum of categories, I do want to determine for our listeners over here, how do you advise your partners, brand partners, on which categories make sense for sampling? And is there a difference when it's a new brand and it's innovation versus a large scale brand only looking for some sort of targeted household penetration, or perhaps doing A/B testing with innovation? Actually, I wanted to ask you, do scale brands actually partner with y'all on A/B testing innovation?
Yeah, we do a lot of testing, at Brandshare. We believe that trying to optimize the program, we can optimize both digitally and we can also optimize through creative. At times, brands may even have different SKUs and they want to see, which one's performing better and how are consumers responding in different ways. So there are great opportunities to do a lot of learning through A/B testing, match panel testing, get as much learning as you can from the investment. We're big believers in that. In terms of categories that can be sampled, we essentially do sampling campaigns across every category in CPG that I can think of. Certainly tons and tons of beverages are taking advantage of, some of the opportunities we have. Beauty is huge. Snacks, salty snacks and bars. It really runs the gamut in terms of, brands that believe that sampling is an important objective to drive trial and increase household penetration. There are some categories that are challenging to sample, like obviously a frozen item or items like that can be hard. So it doesn't just have to be physical sampling. We also create brand experiences. So let's just say maybe a category close to your heart. It's a children's cereal. And while some children's cereals do make samples, not all do. So instead of that, what if there was just a growth chart that comes as sort of a piece of collateral, in those yoga pants for a mom that may have kids? And it's just making up an example here. It's Cheerios, and it's so growth chart brought to you by Cheerios. Track your kids over a period of time. And it isn't an actual physical sample, but it is a great reminder in the home of trial for a breakfast cereal. And again, the QR code could lead you to digitally get a free sample. So pick up, here's a free coupon that you can pick up at Walmart or some sort of other trigger so that mom can pick up that whatever product was being promoted. Did I answer your question? Though I want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yeah, you did. You certainly did, and thank you for actually trying to tackle somewhat of a tough question right there. The only one thing I want to come back to is because we discussed chocolate, right? And chocolate does melt, as you mentioned. Is perishable a no-go, or do you do it rarely, or how do you handle perishables?
Yeah, so with chocolate, right, we would have different guidelines. The packaged goods company would tell us at what temperatures the product is safe versus not safe. And for in general, we probably would not distribute chocolate in the months from probably June to September, especially down south. But we have a whole matrix of how to appropriately ship and sample any products that could have melting. And we know the different seasons, we know truck temperatures. So we really do have that part down to a science. And then of course, there's also the situation of expiration dates and or perishable. So that all goes into our planning when we partner with the brand, so that we know that the amount of lead time that's appropriate, how things will be shipped, and to make sure that those products are distributed and consumed prior to either an expiration date, or of course, if they're perishable.
Alan, you referenced earlier your ability to target consumers on behalf of your brand clients. I'd like to double click down on that a little bit. When you talk about targetable segments, and you have quite a number of retail fulfillment channels, if someone wants to target a particular type of lifestyle consumer, is it more driven by the channel itself and the type of shoppers that are shopping that channel, or is it actually, do you have the ability to further target the actual consumer data at that particular retailer to fulfill the sample? Just trying to get an understanding of what these lifestyles are capable of refining the delivery of that sample to the right consumer.
Sure. So again, sticking just with our vertical of e-com sampling, we have a huge amount of e-com retail partners, around 750, maybe even more than that. So we have this plethora of different e-com sites and websites that we can choose from to build these different targeted audience. So we sort of group them. You can call them cohorts, you can call them lifestyle groups, but we get all sorts of great audience information from our retail partners. So we know, exactly, who's on their site, and what they're made up of. And then Brandshare's invested in a lot of research on top of that. And, we've invested in fusion data, right? The combination of MRI and Simmons to give us other, great audience information, so that we can talk even more specifically about that targeted audience. So we do sample at scale. We've done millions and millions and millions of samples on a particular campaign, but we also can do it relatively targeted. So it can be and it's efficient, right? I think the old way of sampling, going back many years into my sampling, it was all about direct mail, and you would buy a list, and the list might be relatively curated. But the challenge with mail is it was very expensive. And in addition to it being very expensive, you weren't always sure, if that list was accurate. And I think that with today's behaviors, the mail isn't as engaging as it used to be. Whereas if you get an e-com package that comes to your doorstep, it's like a surprise for yourself, a present to yourself, each time you get the package. Not many people buy yoga pants and let them sit there for a week or so, right? They can't wait to see if they're the right color, the right size, are they cute? So it's a much more engaging sort of a vehicle of which to distribute samples.
So pretty clear, Peter, that Brandshare is in the business of sampling. What do you think, Peter? And a preferred partner?
I think we've used the term yoga pants probably more in this episode than in collectively the other 100 or so episodes that we've produced. Sri.
That is true, Peter.
So I'm unique in that. I'm unique in that regard.
There you go.
There we go. So, when I think of the world of sampling, your partners, aka brands, are going to be hungry and eager to know how the results were and what sort of data they can get back from you in terms of consumer response. So we know your services are much more than simply boxing samples and having a distribution network and a whopping 700 plus e-commerce websites to get these samples out, but you're also in performance media to make sure the trip interruption point for the consumer is triggered right online. You're in shopper audience measurement, obviously. You're in micro-targeting so that the right household gets the sample. And that comes back to conversational commerce or even part of retail media network. So could you give our audience a highlight of all these other services that you have going on?
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's all about measurement. It's all about ROI. It's all about delivering on KPIs. I mean, that is what brands are looking for and always have been. So we have invested, very heavily in being able to deliver on that. So I keep going back to the QR code, but it all starts with that engagement, right? We can use that QR code to fire a survey and get all sorts of information that's survey based. We will know what the engagement level from the QR code is. We'll know how long people engaged with the conversational commerce. If you include a video, we'll know how long and how many views you got in the video. We'll know how much product was carted and by which retailers and which SKUs. If it was a coupon offer, we can help track that coupon offer in terms of, now you start to get down to redemption. So there are many, many different, we have a dashboard that's going to provide the brand with exactly how a particular campaign performed. And then, of course, it's all about data too. So once we know that a consumer engaged in the QR code, the brand then has the ability to retarget that consumer. We can assist with that process 2 months after the campaign, 1 month, 3 months, and also create these very high resolution lookalikes. I'm scared to use yoga pants again, but just sticking with continuity here, if a mom with kids that bought yoga pants engaged on the QR code, we will be able to find through a lot of different, sophisticated data matching, a whole bunch of people that look exactly like that Sally in this particular example, and do a very, as I mentioned, high resolution lookalike campaign that should perform very well. So it's almost the data that you're talking about. It then helps extend the effectiveness of the sampling campaign for months into the future.
Peter, Alan might have single-handedly given Fabletics and Lululemon a boost here on the CPG guys.
I hope they're listening.
He had me at QR code, Sri. I've been diligently trying to figure out how to grow QR codes on asparagus stalks and lobster shells, and I'm going to figure it out, and it will be revolutionary. But in any event, my final question for you, Alan, is really about the value proposition, right? Why should brands work with you above all others in the industry? What is it that makes your secret sauce so special, and why Brandshare is the preeminent partner for brands looking to get samples into the hands of consumers?
It's a great question. We live and breathe this every day. I think a lot of times when I look at making choices in my own companies that I partner with, you sort of look at what the roots are. And since our founding fathers, the Geyer family, began this company, we have been committed to try to figure out a very efficient, a very effective, and a very measurable way to create, brand experiences and sampling. So our entire company, our entire team, we wake up, we live and breathe this every day, and we ask for feedback. What do the brands think? What do consumers think? How is it performing? But at the end of the day, we really believe that this product line that we're talking about, e-commerce sampling, is, 1, innovative, 2, cost efficient, 3, it's a very fun environment for consumers to receive a surprise and delight opportunity for to try a new brand. It goes right into your home. It's 1-to-1, so you have 100% share of voice. And then through that tech stack we talked about, very measurable. You're going to know exactly how the program performed. You're going to get a great, post-campaign report with lots of learning. And then as we talked about, you can then leverage the audience that you did engage with as part of a retargeting and lookalike, digital media campaign. So I think there's a lot of, interesting things. Most importantly, we listen to the brief, we listen to the client's KPIs, and we have so many opportunities and products within Brandshare that we can really tweak and customize them based on what those KPIs are.
The most important words there, Alan, were you listen to the brief, you listen to the brand's needs, and that's how the KPIs get curated in the first place. So Peter, let's try and sum up what we got in episode 2 today. Number 1, if it's not clear already in episode 1, Brandshare is in the business of sampling, pretty clear, but sampling comes with metrics. Sampling comes with audience targeting. It comes with things such as retargeting, lookalike, which Alan just mentioned a few seconds ago. There's also the world of conversational commerce that we've touched. And we even talked about QR codes that, Peter, you and I have known to love in the industry. And if you're in New York City these days, that is the way you get a menu. 10 years behind China, but that is the way you get a menu. So connected sampling is the word that comes to my mind, Peter, in a 24/7 browse, buy, omni-channel environment. And A/B testing was another word that very personal to me. This is how innovation should be launched. And then for large-scale brands looking for household penetration, this could be an answer. Your thoughts, Peter?
Yoga pants, Shri. Yoga pants. But seriously, if you're a brand and you want to get your product in the hands of highly targeted consumers through some very efficient channels that, to Alan's point, get that one-to-one connection and ensures it gets in front of them, they've built a very rich, deep network of retail partners that are already fulfilling transactions to these consumers. This gets it in front of them and ensures that the brand has a chance to be sampled and for them to retarget and secure full-size purchases of these products. So I think it's very exciting.
Peter's word of the day, yoga pants. Shree's word of the day, melted chocolate. But the CPG guy's word of the day, Brandshare as a partner of choice for connected sampling. With that, I'd like to remind our audience you can find all our content on cpgguys.com. Do not forget, folks, this audience is shaped based on what you tell us you'd like to hear. Best way to do that, simply go to the search bar on LinkedIn, type CPG Guys. That easy. Hit the plus button that says follow next to it and be part of this growing family of retailers, brands, service providers that is reshaping and transforming the needs of the consumer packaged goods industry to do what we all love to do, which is deliver products at quality and value to the consumer. Alan, I want to thank you for appearing on this episode 2 of our partnership with you folks. But for our audience, could you share one more time if they want to track you down or if they want to actually connect with y'all? What's the best way for them to do it to get the Brandshare experience?
Thanks again for your time. I actually made it through the whole podcast without you guys discovering that I'm a diehard Boston fan, so that went well for me. And please, if you take a look at brandshare.us, that would be our website, or find us on LinkedIn. And there's a number of different ways that you can directly connect with us through those two different mediums.
Alan found a way to avoid the most controversial topic of the day because Boston is really only one game ahead of us in the latest standings as of 6:44 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on May the 20th, Thursday. And I can't wait for that series, Alan. I hope you're looking forward to that series as well. And I can predict that'll have Cole and Kluber for sure, followed by Losiaga, who of late has been pitching a 1.5. So with that, for all our listeners, part 3 will be coming soon in the next couple months. And a reminder that episode 1 was May 29th with Brandshare's founder, Doug, and Peter, as always, week over week. Thank you so much. Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, what can I say?
The battle continues. And as I say, if you can't be a Dodger fan, be a Red Sox fan. Because, at the end of the day, we're still gunning for the Yankees.
Very smartly, the two gentlemen on this week's episode chose to say that right at the end and not at the beginning. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Alan. Folks, that's a wrap for today. We'll catch you again soon on the next episode of the CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC
or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.